Morning, everybody. Another quick knife unboxing and review. Don't know why I've been on a slip joint kick lately, but yeah, I wanted another one. But I wanted something, I've talked before about I wanted something very gentlemanly and classy. But at the couple slip joints, apart from the whatchamacallit ones, the Swiss Army knives and stuff, I've got are the Lion Steels. And like the craftsmanship, love the materials and just the precision and just, how these are made and stuff. So I've got the Lion Steel Best Man 2 with M390, and then I've got a Moletta Design Lion Steel Thrill in M390 with the aluminum, and that's the integral frame with the pocket clip that pushes out of the frame and then retracts when you're not using it. But I wanted something that was truly classy. Something that would be like what my grandfather would have carried, and probably was, because I remember him always talking about, of course he was German, but saying, the best steel knives and stuff come from Solingen, Germany. So I went and picked up one of these. Comes in a very nice box. It's Boker. Boker's got a lot of different brands. They've got their higher end brands, which is the Boker manufacturer in Solingen. Apparently their facility in Argentina, that line is pretty good. Then they've got the Boker Magnums, Boker Plus, which are more of your Chinese or Asian imports, which, are okay, for the money and stuff, but they're not like this. So nice box, nice little, whatchamacallit, bag here, manual, instructions, care instructions, things like that. This has a kind of a cool magnetic lid. So you just kind of pop that in there and boop. Anyway, what we've got is the cattle knife. So this is going to be kind of the other end of the spectrum from these high-tech, precision CNC machined, engineered. This is a handmade knife for the most part. I mean, they may stamp out the blade and then grind it and all stuff, but this is assembled by hand. This is, the bolsters are installed and pressed and peened by a guy with a hammer and then polished by hand and things like that. What we've got is a blade that is nice, stiff spring. And if you chew your thumbnails like I do, that could be a problem. That's the downside with slip joints. Sometimes you sit there, chew your nails, and then you don't have enough fingernail to actually grab the blade. So what we've got is an N690 blade. So good blade steel, reasonably corrosion resistant. It is a burl birch handle, so we can focus in on that. We've got nickel bolsters, stainless nickel, what have you. Little swedge on the blade. It is a spear point, and while it doesn't look that sharp of a point, it's actually fairly stabby. The blade is just under 4 inches, so this is a bit of a longer, bigger knife. And this is what I like about it. It really, when you have this in your hand, it just feels like if someone handed this to you, you'd go, God, how old is this thing? It's that type of style. Brass bolsters, stainless steel spring. What I really like is just the way everything fits really flush. Like this is a nicely well-finished knife that they've put together here. Spring tension, pretty stiff. It's up there with those other two. Snaps right into place, has a half stop. Nice snap, just kind of like, nice snap, same thing here. That was actually probably a little snappier, but I think that's more because the blade is lighter, so having the same tension spring but on a lighter blade, it's gonna snap it, less inertia. Very thin. Weight-wise, I think is right around the 3 ounces, right in that range. But very nice, should make a decent slicer. Sharpness out of the box. I've not checked it, not done anything. I just actually unboxed it, but yeah, cut sharp. Push test, not quite enough for the push test. That's probably the blade geometry. You get that super razor thin blade. This, I think, is probably a little bit of a steeper, more of a heavier use. But it cuts nice enough. I'll go ahead and throw that on a strop later, see if I can clean that up just a little bit. But reasonably sharp out of the box. Nothing crazy, though. I wouldn't say it's the sharpest knife by any means. It doesn't feel like as fine of an edge as this. But again, you're talking about a different type of knife. Yeah, and that thing's wicked sharp. You're talking about something that's kind of built old school. I think the Boker Tree Company That's the tree emblem right there that's been pressed into the wood scales. I think Boker goes back like almost 300 years. Like this is one of the oldest still in production knife companies, I believe. It's been around for quite a long time. Everything about it, very clean, very classy. It's very smooth. Grip on it is decent. Like there's, even though it's polished smooth, it actually gets a little bit of friction. So, you know, it doesn't feel like it's going to slip out of my hand. I don't know if your hand's wet or not. But I think it's a beautiful knife. It really is sharp, and sharp looking, and you know, pretty sharp in the sense of the blade too. But yeah, that's a fairly, I'm looking at the angle of the blade there. I don't know if you can get that to focus. That's a fairly steep angle. So I'll probably touch that up real quick with a super fine diamond stone on my Lansky sharpener. Just see if I can hone that a little bit more. But for its use of, you know, cutting paper, opening boxes, things like that, I think this will be really nice. It sits in the pocket. There is no pocket clip. Again, we're not talking about a high-tech modern machine. We're talking about something where a craftsman in a factory made this knife, you know, and they are mass produced, so it's not a custom knife, but they make it the old way. And that's kind of what I like about it. Size-wise, to compare it to my other slip joints, a little bit bigger than the Thrill, and certainly bigger than that little guy. On these, you know, I can get a whole hand on it, but you know, when I choke up on it, my thumb is almost up here on the tip. I mean, so these are fairly small knives. This one's kind of just in that sweet spot of just being big enough for someone with my size hands. But here, I've got a nice grip on the whole thing. You know, I can choke up on it, and I'm not anywhere near the tip. This is going to be great. You know, you use this for whatever, food prep. I mean, use your knives for whatever you're going to use it for. But I wanted to have one, while I've got some slip joints, I realized, you know, these are all still kind of high tech. When someone says, oh, you got a slip joint, they're thinking you probably got something that's more, you know, classic. And this one's fairly close, even though it is using modern steel, modern titanium, carbon fiber and stuff. But it is designed, it is built. I'd say this is fairly close, other than some of the modern materials. But if you want the real deal from a good, you know, hundreds of years old German company for a knife that's largely, you know, hand produced, they have obviously machines to help and stuff, but it's not just load a block of aluminum into the CNC machine and hit enter on the keyboard, right, and out pops a knife. It's a little more of a painstaking process to make these and hand polish them and fit them by hand and make sure that everything works real well. No real blade play. That just, you know, that tiny bit of wiggle that everyone has. Blade stock is pretty good. I think it's actually probably a little thicker. It's about the same as that. Thicker than this one for sure. Yeah. Even though it's more flat and doesn't have the crowning that these have, Lion Steel's really good about crowning those edges. Might just be sharp enough if you had a ferro rod and you had to, you know, spark or start a fire. That's the downside. You'd have to pretty much use the swedge on these because that edge might not be sharp enough. This one might not be too. I mean, it's flat, so it's not crowned in radius like the other one, but it doesn't really feel sharp anywhere. Everything here, the transitions, like you don't feel anything between. You've got wood, brass, steel, brass, wood. And that's polished and ground really well. Like you don't feel any real transitions between them. Same thing here. There's no sharp edge on that. You can rub your thumb back and forth. There's some knives where you feel that sharp edge biting into your thumb. Here, everything's really well done. The transition from the bolster to the wood, again, really good. You can feel it, although I don't know, maybe I'm feeling that ridge that they've ground into there. I don't think I'm actually feeling, I'm not. That's what I'm feeling. I'm feeling that ornamental groove there that they've put, but I'm not actually feeling any transition from the wood to the bolster. So good job on that. I mean, someone took their time to actually put this together, grind and polish this so that everything is smooth, flush. There's no sharp. There's nothing catching on your fingers anywhere. You can just, it feels like a bar of worn, like a soap. Everything about it is just worn smooth and very good. Good, useful size. Really nice, stiff, a stiff spring, just the way I like it. Still have to be careful if you were to plunge it into something for it to not close on your hand. That's just an inherent, You know, you use slip joints a little differently than you would use a locking blade knife. Locking blade knife is going to be a little safer for those types of tasks, a little more forgiving. But people use slip joints for hundreds of years and, you know, manage to not cut their fingers off. So as long as you're not a knucklehead, that's very cool. That is something where I think you pull that out, you know, to use a knife for some reason, and that's a bit of a conversation starter. There's people that probably wouldn't be even into knives that look and go, oh, that looks kind of cool, but they won't recognize it for a quality, you know, piece of Italian knife of what it is. But someone sees this, probably pretty much anybody is going to go, oh, my grandfather had a knife a lot like that, or my dad used to carry something like that, or my grandfather gave me my first knife and it was one of his old knives and it looked a lot like that. That's kind of what I was going for here. Something just very, very classy, because I'm a classy kind of guy. So that is the Boker Cattle Knife in curly birch. So they had one in stag, had a bone handle, and I actually liked the look of the bone just a little bit better, and it gave it a little more texture to grip it. But I don't know, something about this one just kind of spoke to me. Something about that just the look of that wood. I'm hoping the lighting is catching that. Something about that just looked really timeless. And less busy. I guess that's what it was. When you've got the stag with all the ripples and stuff, yeah, it actually feels a little bit better texture in your hand, fills your hand a little bit more because it's just a little bit thicker, but it also gives you maybe more grip. But when I looked at that to me just looked a little bit more, just that little bit more elegant, a little less frontiersy or outdoor, you know what I mean? The way the stag handle looks, a little less Davy Crockett and Daniel Boone. So that's what we got. Figure I keep it short because what else am I going to say? It's a good, nice steel blade made in Solingen, Germany, where they've been making these things for hundreds of years, and really nice job. It's not a cheap knife, but again, that's the kind of knife you can pass down to people. This is a knife that will last you a lifetime. You take care of this. Your Kershaws, no one's going to hand down a $40 Kershaw to their, to people 50 years from now, right? But something like that, a nice quality piece from Germany made in the old traditional way with traditional materials, yeah, you would do that. So anyway, hope you enjoy. If you got any questions, post comments and I'll do my best to answer them. But that is the Boker Cattle Knife. Pretty cool.